Ready? Wow. Hey, it's Paul at Old Anvil Speed Shop, and today we're out here with this gorgeous 67 Nova. It was brought to us, we were going to do some repairs to the hood and change some things, and it turned into almost a full build. We've done everything on this thing but paint. We started out, we modified the hood for the blower motor that was in it. It was a 383 stroker with a 671 blower. Just never could quite get it to run right at idle, and it was just too much to drive on the street for the owner. So we decided to put an LS3 in it, although we couldn't just leave it like a stock LS3. So we bought a 525 horsepower crate motor, and we built a tunnel ram for it with carburetors on top, but we retained fuel injection. So this is a pretty neat deal, and turns out it made a ton of torque. By adding a Tremec TKX 5-speed, the car is just a ball of fun. Every time we see the owner, he is grinning from ear to ear. So this has been like a lifelong dream for him, and he's super proud of it now. And we are very proud of it as well, because this is one of my favorite builds we've done. So let me show you all about it. All right, so let me show you what we did under the hood of this thing. As you could see, the scoop just barely fits through the hood. So we wound up making a whole new hood for this thing. Scrapped the old one because it had been kind of butchered up from where the old scoop was in it before. So this is it. This is, we've touched pretty much every inch of this engine compartment since we started on it. We started out with the GM 525 crate motor. We bought it in a long block form so that it came without intake, and the serpentine kit and all that wasn't there. So we used a Holley serpentine kit. These things work great. They're nice and compact. We got the black model without the AC unit. And we used the Earl's steam kit for the front. Then we went to the we have the Holley high ram with the top hat that has place for two 4150 carburetors. Although we bought two 450 CFM carburetors and have designed our own progressive linkage and throttle position sensor. So this thing all works. At first it'll actually open up one primary, then a second primary, then both secondaries. So all that, just kind of see how that all works together. With the high ram intake, it already has ports for the fuel injectors. So we're running a 48-pound Holley injector. I think these are what, the EV1 style connectors on them. So you're getting our fuel here from the fuel rail, which we don't like the deadhead, so this is a full return system. We're using an aeromotive regulator on the front, which then returns. So we pressure the back side of the fuel rail, and it's pressuring both sides equally, and then it returns off this line off the regulator on the front. So the carburetors are really just there for the throttle body. That's it. It's using the blades, and by opening up this back one here, we're letting air into this entire plenum, so that vacuum kind of evens out throughout the whole thing. It starts letting air in. And at idle, it's not super critical on having complete perfect flow, but then as you open it up, we start getting the front primary involved as well. And by the time it's hitting the secondaries, you can see it's mechanical secondary, and by the time it's hitting the secondary, they're all opening up. So actually I need to pull from that one. So as we're opening it up, then it's opening up both secondaries. So wide open throttle, we have just total even airflow over all four, or all 8 ports. And of course, we've plugged the fuel lines because there's no fuel going into the carburetors. So it's working its purpose, plus it just looks great sticking out of the hood. It's just what we wanted for this car. Turns out this thing makes a ton of torque. We wound up with 460 pound-feet of torque at the rear wheel, and it made 551 horsepower. We built our own set of headers for it. We do an 1 7/8" primary tube. They're pretty equal length at about 30 inches long each, and they go into a venturi that necks down to 2.5 inches and opens back up to 3 inches. We actually did a video previously on the header and exhaust build, and we made a set of valve covers for it. It's one of our valve covers. We're looking at probably putting those on sale as well. We did our coil pack mounts and mounted the coils over here on the roll bar, so they're nice and easy to access. It just gets them away from the engine, and they don't have as much heat on them, which helps. We've put a Matson's radiator in this thing. We custom made all of our tubes and hoses and all for that. Our radiator cap, our coolant overflow tank. We've got our coolant breather, or our breather on this side, and we've been running it pretty hard, so there's actually a little oil coming out of the top. We went back, and it had a electric brake system on it. When we got here, it was power assist by electric. We took that off and actually put a Wilwood manual cylinder on it. Beside the manual brakes, we put a hydraulic clutch in it, because it was previously had a turbo 400 in it. Now we have a TKX 5-speed from Tremec, and we used the Malwood hydraulic system. My friend Sherry Lynn, she hooked us up with the Malwood, and oh man, does it work great. We also have a McLeod clutch. It's a double disc McLeod clutch and flywheel, and all of that is just working so well together. It makes it so much fun. So let's show you this handmade hood scoop. So we took the 060 aluminum and we formed it up. It's actually one piece wrapped around and then one piece on the rear. And we handcrafted this scoop. There's actually air cleaners inside. We even dyno tubed it with us on there in the foam in the front. We pulled it out, tried it again, and it actually didn't make a difference. And then the hood, we took and cut the hood, then we rolled it up so it has this little bevel around the outside. And then we used foam inside to help support the inner structure and tied all the inner structure together. So the hood now is just super stiff, and it looks like it was actually a factory part with a hole in the middle. So one of my favorite things we did on this car is change the wheels and tires. And our good friend Alan Budnick had actually made a set of wheels for this, or originally had a set of his wheels on the car, but they were a little dated, and they're also pretty heavy, and the sizes weren't quite right. Whoever had designed it, the sizes were a little off. So we talked to the owner, Chris, and we decided to build these wheels for him. So we came up with a new concept. It's using a 15-inch hoop. These are pretty much a drag racing hoop from Sander Engineering, and then we made the centers to look like a torque thrust. So we've custom made a center cap. All this is kind of shrunk down smaller with ARP bolts, and so now they're super lightweight, just like a drag wheel would be, but they still have the look of the torque thrust. we're pretty proud of these. We'll be selling these as well. And then suspension wise, we've actually gone through the entire car and changed out all the coilovers. And we had to do some notching in the front. We use QA1 double adjustable shocks. It makes the car super easy to tune and set up. The car rides great now. It hooks coming out of the hole, doesn't spin too much. It's hard to do smoky burnouts in this car because it just wants to go, which is something we love. And of course, we use M&H Race Masters on most of our faster builds that have 15-inch wheels on them. So yeah, there we go. So checking out these rears, this car was originally it was already tubbed for Pro Street apparently back in the day. And I think it had 18-inch rims on the back from Budnick. And so we wanted to go back to a softer tire, something that will really hook up and look racy. So we built these 15 by 12s for the rear, and we have 15 by 5 that we built for the front. Bigs and littles worked out really well, but I just love the deep dish. It just fits the part on this thing, and of course, where they're tucked up in there pretty well. Yeah, this thing hooks. Let me show you what we did in the trunk. So the trunk already had a fuel cell in it, but it had a bunch of, it had all kinds of wood, and the interior in this thing was also very dated. So there was a lot of extra weight. Of course, in our mind, the car should be light as possible when you're trying to go fast. So, but the original fuel cell, the cap was leaking in it, so we bolted this in, Cerakoted it. Put a new sender in that's a floatless sender. Of course, we added the Phoenix fittings and made it look nice. It had red, white, and blue, or the red and blue fittings in it before. Then we laid a piece of carpet in here and made some aluminum panels here to cover up the tubs and the sound system. All that worked out real well. And then this is our billet battery box in the rear. We use a Group 34 AGM battery. And that's our clean trunk. So a year ago when we started working on this car, the inside was also pretty dated. It had some kind of seats out of something they were all power seats, and they were very heavy seats. It had a set of autometer gauges, and I don't think the stereo would work. It had a tape deck in it still. It had some kind of billet steering wheel, kind of Chinese looking steering wheel. The door panels had a Chevy logo in it, or no, it had a SS in it for the Super Sport, and they were Alcantara leather, so they were all fuzzy. So we decided to go with a very racy kind of period correct look for this car. So we went with a Camaro steering wheel. It's will be correct for this car, but it has an I did it column, and we've made new knobs and all for it and blacked them out so it kind of fits the car a bit better. We put a set of our old Anvil Speed Shop gauges in it, and we added the tack up here on the hood because or on the dashboard, because that's just proper for this car. And we came up with the stitching, and we incorporated it into the seats and in the door panels. And it's really to look like the old dragsters from the 60s. That's kind of where I pulled that pattern from. I used to see it in a lot of the slingshot dragsters. And of course, there's no back seat. And we had a stereo system in it. Sounds great. It's quiet going down the road. Just it seems like it all ties together and just makes for a lot of fun. Y'all ready to go have some fun? Let's do it. What is it about this car that just gets me giddy, I guess is the right term for it. And I don't know, puts a big grin on my face. I know the customer, Chris, he has a huge grin on his face when he comes back from driving this thing. I made him take me for a ride in it the other night, and we had a ball. It's with the Tremec 5-speed and 451 horsepower with 460 foot-pounds of torque at the tire. This car is a ball. Oh, and not to mention it weighs 3,030 pounds. Plus, in my opinion, the 67 Nova is probably the best looking muscle car ever built. It just looks pissed off when it's sitting still. And the stance of this car is kind of pro street. It was an old pro street car we've modernized. So it's it's just a lot of fun. So we'll take it down the street here, turn around, come back, we'll show you how it runs. See if we can catch up to this truck. Ready?
Yep.
Wow. This car's so tight. Everything in it's, been gone over, and it just like becomes a part of your body.